By the way, your child may want to take a splash this summer, but you have to take into consideration safety too in light of that story. According to the Red Cross, 10 people die every day from drowning, and out of that 10, 2 of them will be under the age of 14. The organization saying young kids are more likely to drown in pools and bathtubs, but it's kids between ages 5 and 17 that are more likely to drown in natural water like lakes, like ponds, and like rivers.
It's important to know about water safety because really anywhere that there is water, there is a risk of drowning, especially for children. And at the American Red Cross, we encourage families to kind of prepare for the summer swim season, but also year round, just because we've seen that research shows that participation kind of in a formal water safety and swim lessons can reduce that risk.
Jace Eustace with the American Red Cross says families with incomes below $50,000 have few to no swimming lessons. And he adds that 64% of African Americans, 45% of Hispanics, and 40% of Caucasians have few to no swimming skills at all. He attributes that disparity to some households with little to no knowledge of how to swim.
You have parents who have not had swimming lessons or have not had really that's been a part of their life. They don't tend to pass that along to their children until they realize that, hey, this might be something that's important.
Eustace reminds parents or guardians of any kids to have a designated person to watch them in the water at all times. Always something good to keep in mind, just because of the fact that lifeguards sometimes are dealing with something else at the pool or at the beach, or maybe they have their eyes somewhere else dealing with an emergency. As a former lifeguard myself, I know that sometimes it's always better to have a parent just on standby in case something were to happen.
Yeah.